Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
So what's it like to buy your first cryptocurrency on Kraken? Well, let's say I'm at a food truck I've never tried before. Am I gonna go all in on the loaded taco? No, sir. I'm keeping it simple, starting small. That's trading on Kraken. Pick from over 190 assets and start with the $10 in your pocket. Easy. Go to Kraken.com and see what crypto can be. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Interactive Inc., PWI, DBA Kraken. View PWI's disclosures at kraken.com/legal/disclosures.
They're great. Everybody up here is great. Everybody up here is very special.
As Donald Trump was praising people on election night at Mar-a-Lago, the listening crowd wanted to make sure he mentioned one person in particular.
Yeah, who did you say? Oh, let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon.
That same night, Fox News' Bret Baier said Elon Musk might be the future of the Republican Party. We've covered Musk a lot in this election. His campaign appearances for Trump, his fundraising, and his political action committee, America PAC. But today, we wanted to tell a slightly different story about how Elon joined the Trump orbit in the first place. That's why we called up Zoe Schiffer to take us back a few years.
We could definitely see hints of his kind of political transformation. And I think in retrospect, it does make a lot of sense for him because he just has so much to gain by aligning himself with the Republican Party.
Zoe wrote a fantastic book about Musk's Twitter takeover called Extremely Hardcore. And she knows better than most people that the road to Election Day was not a straight and predictable one.
And I think while it's easy to assign a lot of strategy to what Elon has done in buying Twitter and transforming it into a political influence operation, which I'm sure we'll get into, I think in reality, he just does pretty well with the cards that he's dealt, and he makes impulsive decisions and then is like, ooh, look at the fallout of these decisions. I'm going to capitalize on this. And then we get a situation where, yes, he's apparently the future of the Republican Party.
Today on the show, how Elon took over Twitter and then the GOP. I'm Lizzie O'Leary, and you're listening to What Next TBD, a show about technology, power, and how the future will be determined. Stick around. This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. Your team members spend over half their time writing, and we all know how that happens. One confusing email turns into 12 confused replies, then a meeting to get aligned. Grammarly is a trusted AI writing partner that saves your company from miscommunication and all the wasted time and money that goes with it. When every word your team writes is clear, concise, and on brand, everything gets better. 4 out of 5 professionals say Grammarly helps them gain buy-in and action through their communication. Grammarly helps you improve the substance, not just the style of your writing, by identifying exactly what is missing. Teams that communicate better with Grammarly report 25% faster time to resolution for support tickets and 52% less time writing sales emails, saving 19 days per year per employee. Grammarly works where you work, from docs to messages to emails. It integrates seamlessly across 500,000 apps and websites. No cutting, no pasting, no context switching. Equip your team with the gold standard of responsible AI. 15 years of experience, just about every IT certification, and never sells your data. Join 70,000 teams and 30 million people who trust Grammarly to get results on the first try. Go to Grammarly.com/enterprise to learn more. Grammarly, enterprise-ready AI. We're going to start with January 8th, 2021, 2 days after the insurrection at the Capitol. The day the former leadership at Twitter decided to ban former President Trump from the platform. Zoe says that Elon, who absolutely loved tweeting, saw this moment as massive overreach and found it deeply personally radicalizing.
And I think on some level, he had fear. There's very little in Elon Musk's life that he doesn't have control over. But to take the platform that he's completely addicted to, that gives him a rush of dopamine, every second of every day, essentially, and to say, well, if they could do that to Donald Trump, they could do that to me. They could take away this toy that I love and adore so much. And that's an outcome that I'm simply not okay with, and I have to do something about. Around the same time, he kind of conveniently has $10 billion like burning a hole in his pocket, which isn't a situation many of us are accustomed to. But for him, he was kind of trying to figure out what to do with all that money. And what he ends up doing is quietly buying up Twitter shares.
He starts buying up these shares, and then he makes a move to actually buy the platform. Do you think he went in with some grand plan, or was he just like, I like this thing. It's shiny. Let's do it?
The latter, for sure. Yeah, I don't think that he had a long-term strategy in mind. And that's really borne out by my reporting, where when you talk to people close to him, he was going back and forth on this decision constantly, all through the spring of 22 and certainly into the summer, even after he'd made an offer to buy it.
Right, he tried to get out of it.
Exactly. And I really do think, in some moments he would think, no, I should just build a Twitter rival. And he had all these kind of wild schemes around Twitter, but put it on the blockchain, or Twitter, but make it, whatever. Dogecoin would be like an integral part of the platform. But then Twitter basically finds out that he's suddenly their largest shareholder, and the company panics, and the executives actually come to him and say like, whoa, what about a board seat? Like, what if we do this? And he really did entertain that idea for a while. But again, he has people around him and people close to him saying, Elon, you're not like a boardroom kind of dude. You're not going to have the influence that you want to have if you just sit on the board and make suggestions.
And so he actually started testing out that theory, specifically with Parag Agrawal, the then CEO of Twitter.
He starts making, let's call them suggestions, saying things like, hey, there's an account that tracks my private jet. I don't like that account. Like, maybe you should do something about that account. And Parag was like, no, but thank you for the suggestion. Another one was that Elon really wanted to fire Vijaya Gadde, who is the head of policy and the legal team. He called her kind of like the chief censor of Twitter. But she and Parag had a really good relationship. She had a really good reputation internally. And so again, he kind of stands up to Elon and says no. And at that point, Elon's like, okay, clearly you're not going to be a puppet that I can control. So I need to either buy it or walk away. And he decides to buy it.
One of the things that you did so much reporting on is the amount of change and the pace at which it happened at Twitter, now X, once Musk took it over. At the time, it really seemed like he was flailing, that the platform might collapse. Decisions seemed to be coming fast and furious. And I wonder, when you look back at that period of time, if you think, oh, there's a thread running through this, or it really was these events are coming around on a lazy Susan and I'm just responding to them.
I would think it's somewhere in the middle of those. I mean, certainly the thread at the time was cut costs as rapidly as possible. In buying Twitter, he had strapped it with all of this debt, and he was really conscious of how much money the platform was hemorrhaging every single day. And obviously headcount was a big part of that. And so immediately walking in the door, he's like, let's get rid of as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. It also was very convenient that he did not come in with a stance of like, these Twitter employees seem really passionate about the platform. They've worked on this problem for many, many years. What could I learn from them? It was very much like these people are lazy, woke idiots, and they need to like leave and shut up as quickly as possible. I think also like there was somewhat of a misunderstanding on the media side about what the fallout of his decisions would be. Again, he like axes half the company within a week of taking over, including a ton of engineers who had really important roles kind of keeping Twitter up and running. At the same time, anyone who's worked at a big tech company will tell you, like, they spend years and invest millions of dollars trying to make the platform as stable as possible. So that when a big event happens, when the platform's flooded because of the Super Bowl and people are posting videos, or there's an attack from a foreign adversary or what have you, like, it can at least stay online. It might be glitchier, there might be problems, but like it will stay up and running. I think the media looked at all of his decisions and were like, I don't know if you remember, there was kind of that night in December where everyone was like, this is the last night that Twitter will be online. Like,
Yes.
goodbye, everyone.
It's breaking. Goodbye.
And it was like, that was never really going to happen. It might go down for a while. It might have a lot of problems, but like, it would be able to weather the storm. And I think particularly for Elon, like the amount of money he has just allows him to paper over a lot of mistakes. And he has made a lot of mistakes along the way, but ultimately it hasn't really mattered.
During the takeover, one of the points he made was that he wanted the platform to be devoid of political affiliation. That is clearly not what it is now.
No.
And yet this election kind of turned it into a megaphone for the Trump campaign. I guess a question that I have, and I don't know how to measure in a quantitative way, is how effective X became at getting the Trump message out.
Yeah, I don't think we know that yet. But I mean, I think there's no question that X has become a political influence platform. Like now its purpose was, to get Donald Trump elected, and now it's become a complete megaphone of the Republican Party. Like that seems quite obvious. What is the impact of that change? Like it's a little hard to say, but I think that there's no question that Elon played a very big role in this election. And he's also kind of changed the landscape of tech in general. When we look at things like content moderation related to election misinformation, like X has set the floor so low that it makes it very easy for other platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Meta, all of Meta's platforms, to kind of walk back some of their earlier stances on content moderation, on banning certain types of political misinformation, and still look far better than X currently looks.
Elon had a post on Thursday that was very interesting to me. He said, for anyone, whether in America or other countries, who finds this result shocking, they should reconsider where they get their information. This trend was obvious on X for months, but almost all the legacy mainstream media pushed a completely false reality. They lied to you. I have a vested interest here. I do not believe that the media lied to voters. But when I look at this line of thinking, what seems both really interesting and also kind of impossible to tease out is where X is a source of information, where it is a platform for boosting Trump, where it is its own ecosystem that exists in some, I don't know, Venn diagram in between the two. Mm-hmm. How would you describe it as a platform now?
It's such a tough question because I think what Elon is saying is X is reflecting reality. And I think an open question that many journalists have is X actually creating a new reality? And I don't know the answer to that yet. I certainly do think that like Elon and Trump have both tapped into, they have like a clear-eyed understanding of an aspect of human nature that perhaps a lot of people do not want to see. And it's a perspective that has become very pervasive on X. But I think that it's a very convenient myth for Elon to say like, everyone else is lying to you and this is the reality, when in fact he's making decisions that make that reality more and more likely.
Yeah. Is X a pipeline to America PAC, or are they separate things?
I mean, it's all so inextricably linked with Elon Musk. And actually, he made the decision somewhat early in the PAC's formation to say that it could be tied to his personal brand. And X is, of course, intrinsically tied to his brand at this point as well, that I think they're all very, very intermixed.
America PAC clearly played a massive role here. It was essentially the Trump campaign's ground game. Elon Musk has said, I'm not done with politics yet. What is the future of America PAC?
I think that this is a really interesting question. And I do think that he's being serious. Like, he's not done. The fact that his campaign was so successful that, we've seen now, you can pour money into politics and it can be effective. Not always, but in this case, it most certainly was to some degree. I think, that's, again, another drug that Elon Musk will be very unwilling to give up. And I think that his ambitions extend far beyond the Trump White House. And so we're going to see him try and influence the courts, regulations, a lot of it in the name of benefiting his companies more than they've already benefited from the U.S. government. But I think also in pushing his increasingly radical political agenda.
When we come back, how long can Elon Musk and Donald Trump coexist without turning on each other? Have you heard about Doublenomics? It's okay if you haven't. It's extremely niche and practiced by Discover. Here's an example. Discover automatically doubles the cash back earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. That means with Discover, you could turn $150 cash back to $300. It pays to Discover. See terms at discover.com/creditcard. Innovation is important to the future of many businesses, and processes need to be clear, fast, and ultimately more productive. Take a big step to solving these problems with the Innovation Workspace from Miro. The Innovation Workspace comes loaded with AI-enabled tools to help teams get from idea to output faster. Miro's Innovation Workspace will help your teams accelerate through the full innovation development cycle, helping them to be faster, more productive, and ultimately more effective. Its new AI-powered tools and features can visualize tasks ahead, condense documents to produce summaries in seconds, and even create complex diagrams and flowcharts using natural language. It's designed to complement and sync with existing apps and platforms you use every day, like Jira and Azure, so everything operates smoothly and easily, and everyone's on the same page to rapidly innovate, iterate, develop, and ship. Whether you work in innovation, product design, engineering, UX, Agile, or IT, bring your teams to Miro's revolutionary Innovation Workspace and be faster from idea to outcome. Go to Miro.com to find out how. That's Miro.com. Have you heard about Doublenomics? It's okay if you haven't. It's extremely niche and practiced by Discover. Here's an example. Discover automatically doubles the cash back earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. That means with Discover, you could turn $150 cash back to $300. It pays to Discover. See terms at discover.com/creditcard. We've also seen this flourishing of various right-wing sort of micromedia, influencers, podcasts. They've done well. They've bought ads on X or they exist on X. And I don't know where to tease out. Like, is X a door that was opened so that these other places could walk through? Or is it the other way around? Like, was it going to happen anyway? And they just conveniently happened to feed on each other.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're still teasing this out and we're really close to it. So it's somewhat hard to say, but I think let's just look at the Twitter files. So going back to, this political campaign that Elon Musk started shortly after he took over the company, he gives journalists like Matt Taibbi and less credible people access to Twitter's internal files. And he says, like, sunlight is the best disinfectant. Like, let's open our drawers, look around, see like what seedy history we can uncover and share with the masses in terms of Twitter's relationship with the US government. I think that it's very clear at this point that they were going in with a specific narrative in mind and looking for documentation to back that narrative up. And in fact, when we looked at the documentation that was being published, it like wasn't clear that it was as nefarious as they were claiming. But what happened after the Twitter files? We see Jim Jordan and House Republicans start subpoenaing people who were named in the files. And those subpoenas become the basis of lawsuits, and those lawsuits are covered in the media. And these people who are publishing the Twitter files on Substack are amassing millions of dollars, millions of followers. And so we can see that whether or not the information at the core of this is accurate or honest in a journalistic sense, it almost doesn't matter because the impact is like so great, and it's a feeder from, you know, X to a political machine to a legal machine that kind of forces the reality on all of us.
One of the things that really stands out in your work when you talk about this forced reality is not the focus on Elon Musk, but the companies and people around him. And so I look at this promised Department of Governmental Efficiency, haha, Doge joke. If that even happens, right, which we don't know yet, what can you, someone who has watched Elon's effect on multiple people and companies, extrapolate to what that might mean in, you know, cuts across the federal government? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that has been one of the most interesting parts of this. I never suspected that Elon's behavior when he took over Twitter would actually become kind of a selling point in his qualifications for a commission position with the US government. Like, they're really citing, like, I think Trump at one point said he's the cutter in chief. Like,
yeah,
he's, so it's really seen as a positive, the fact that he could come in and ruthlessly fire people and, yeah, stuff will break, but like ultimately we're going to save all of this money. And in fact, Musk has said, oh, I think we could save about $2 trillion from the federal budget. You know, he's throwing around these kind of wild figures. It's scary because, again, like having watched the Twitter takeover very, very closely, yes, like the platform of Twitter, now X, stayed online. It stayed somewhat functional, but it really was held together with duct tape at various points. And it was going down, it was going dark. Like things, there were such massive glitches for a platform that had not had glitches like that in years and years. And the impact on the people who worked there was really great. People were getting kind of like ruthlessly fired. Then, you know, Musk's cronies were calling them and asking them if they would please come back to fix this one thing because, oops, we fired too many people. Like, it's one thing to have a situation like that when we're talking about a social platform as important as X was in the culture at that point. It's a complete other thing to think about those principles applied to the federal government. I don't think we want a federal government that's held together with Scotch tape and is going dark, whatever that means, at various points, and where more than half of the people who work there, who are somewhat apolitical, are like losing their jobs, and the people who are being hired to replace them are complete. It's like the faithful. That's the bar for who's qualified at this point. So yeah, I think that it's a really grim prospect.
It also has tremendous human costs. You wrote about some of the people who were fired from Twitter and then doxxed.
This is the thing about Musk, is that while people have a lot of loyalty to him, he does not have loyalty toward anyone else. And people who worked closely with him and worked well with him would leave the company, usually because he'd ask them to do something that they did not feel morally comfortable with. And he would get really vindictive once they were out the door. And in some cases, we could think of the former head of trust and safety, Yoel Roth. He, claims that Roth, who's an openly gay man, is a pedophile, and Roth has to flee his home. He eventually actually ends up selling his home because the level of vitriol, the death threats that are being lobbed at him are so scary and credible that he goes into hiding. So, yeah, I mean, even beyond that, there is just this dynamic of Twitter employees, like many of them wanted to give Elon a chance. They had similar gripes that he had in terms of the company being kind of like slow and inefficient, and they wanted to help him succeed. But he had so little respect for them and so little essentially use for them in his mind that he was willing to let a lot of people go. And again, I think that doing that at Twitter had like serious ramifications for individuals, but doing that with government is going to have serious ramifications, like potentially for all of us.
You talked about the way his relationships with people are incredibly inconsistent. And it's very hard for me not to wonder if he and Donald Trump will turn on each other.
Yeah, this is something that I'm very, very curious to watch. At this point, they have so much to gain from being in relationship with each other. And I know you've covered this on the podcast before, but like just in terms of all of the regulators that are looking into Musk's companies right now, he's in a position to actually regulate those regulators. That's obviously very attractive to him. Just yesterday, Tesla's shares surged like 15%. So he added like $20 billion to his net worth. And then for Trump, of course, like having the richest man in the world pour all this money into your campaign, be backing you, be, hyping up all of his supporters for your benefit. Like there's real kismet there. And I think it makes sense that they're on each other's teams right now. At the same time, anyone who is close to Trump will tell you he is incredibly sensitive to looking like he is a puppet and someone else is pulling the strings. And I think that will be a line that Elon Musk has to walk very, very carefully because he is seen as smarter and in some ways more powerful than Trump. And he cannot run for president himself because he's not from the United States. And so I think the idea that he's kind of a shadow ruler and using Trump as a proxy is going to be very dangerous for him because Trump will be so sensitive to that.
Have you ever seen anything that effectively stops Elon Musk when he wants something?
That's such a good question. No, I mean, again, he is such an impulsive decision maker that I just don't think these are such like little examples, but there were times where he was in meetings with people, high-ranking executives at Twitter, and he would say, oh, should I ask people if we should bring Donald Trump back onto the platform? And this is when he's trying to like court advertisers because again, Twitter's like hemorrhaging money. And the executives would say like, no, please don't ask that. Or like, no, not right now, don't do that. And then they'd leave the meeting and realize that as he was asking them the question, he was actually tweeting it out to everyone. So like, I think he can admit at times when he is wrong and try and on some level get someone else to like clean up his mess for him when he realizes he's made a mistake. But I think the mistake at that point has been made. I don't think there's anyone who can stop him in the moment.
Zoe Schiffer, thank you so much for your reporting and for talking with me.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Zoe Schiffer is the incoming director of business and industry at Wired. She's also the author of Extremely Hardcore, Inside Elon Musk's Twitter. You should check it out. And that is it for our show today. What Next TBD is produced by Evan Campbell, Patrick Fort, Shayna Roth, and Alyssa Jung Perry. Our show is edited by Paige Osborne. Alicia Montgomery is Vice President of Audio for Slate, and TBD is part of the larger What Next family. If you like what you heard today, the best way to support us is by joining Slate Plus. Get all your Slate podcasts ad-free, as well as exclusive bonus content like What Next? The Surge, which unpacks all the crazy political stories surrounding this election. All right, we'll be back on Sunday with another episode. I'm Lizzie O'Leary. Thanks for listening.